WireKit comes with the default standard Divi footer, and here I'm using the 3-column one, and you can change that in your Divi theme customizer options. You can do a 4 across or 2 across or 1. And then we also designed some here that are specific to our super themes and the Wireframe Kit. And to use one of these, we'll have to do a little bit of work to hide Divi's default footer and subfooter and put our own in. But first, let's look at the custom CSS we have for our footers. So it looks like by default, we're not really doing anything custom to our 4 footers that we have here, which is great. Doing a little bit to the footer info. We're centering it, and so we're making it have no float. Centering it, adding some letter spacing to that to get the letters to space out. Setting the font weight to bold, giving some line height, and then we're also making the link here, the Superfly link, be bold as well as the text. And then we're making the font size smaller on mobile. So that all has to do with the sub footer, which if you're going to use the default footer, that'll stay, so you may have to override some of that code. If you want to use one of our custom footers up here, that's also going to hide the sub footer, and so you would need to go in here and add one. So let's say, for example, we want to use this light one, number 3 here. So I actually go find that footer 3. So here I am in the layout. So I'm going to filter by footer. And then I'm going to go into footer number 3. And we'll need to be in here anyway. There's this post number we have to grab here in a bit. But here you go. And for that subfooter, you could just add another row and add in your subfooter, or just add it underneath here, I guess, if you wanted to just add it under this button, have something right here, copyright, whatever. You could do that in the builder, right? Which is why we do this. Are doing it this way with the layouts, which is sweet. But if I want to use, one of these 4, this guy here, this one, 3 or 4, and I guess let me show you these styled up in Phoenix, because they're pretty cool. I think it's just a nice little touch to have a little custom footer, which I guess this one you could do with the default widgets, stuff like that. Same with this guy, but just nice having the buttons ready to go for them and stuff. It's kind of trickier to do buttons in the footer. You gotta do it with code. But this guy is all ready to go. That's nice. That's really nice too. And then we have our default one. So we want to use this third one. So I'll post a link to this in the video description. But this is showing you how to set a new footer from a layout in your functions.php file. So you will need access to your web server to do this. I would recommend that way. I wouldn't recommend going into Appearance Editor, which here is hidden, but there's an editor. I would not recommend going that route, because the functions.php file, if you jack it up, then you might not be able to log into your WordPress site. To fix it, in that case, you'd have to go to your server anyway to repair that functions.php. So I would say go ahead and just get it into your server either through the file manager or through FTP like I'm doing here, or some other method that you may use. And I'm actually using a multi-site here, but what you'll want to do is once you get to your WordPress install, it'll look something like this. You want to go into your content folder, into your themes folder, and here we're going to have a ton, because again this is a multi-site, but you want to go into your Wireframe Kit theme. And then first thing you want to do is you want to drag down a copy of your functions.php folder. And the first thing I usually do is when it's on my local machine, I rename it, and then I drag another one down. That way I have a copy. I have an original copy before I started messing around with it. So now I can open this up and check this out. And yours might look a little different than this one. This is a pre-production one. But I'm going to go ahead and go down here, and first I'm going to we're going to come back to here in a second, but first I'm going to go down here and grab this code that they're wanting us to do. We'll paste it in. And then up here she's saying to go into your layout, and then up in the URL it should be something like this with this post equals a number. So I need to go find out what that number is. So here we are in my layout, and up here I see post equals 3000 or 3099. So I'm going to copy that, and just instead of 787 here, I'm going to have that 3099. I'm going to save this. After I save it, I'm going to drag it over to replace my current PHP, and I just got a notification off screen here, off the recording screen, saying it's completed. So now I'm just going to open my home page in a new tab and see what happens. So at least it's working. That's good. So I'll scroll down here, and here we go. I see this is the footer that we use, that light one, but my old one is still showing. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to inspect this, and you could try to go in to hide this container and try to keep the subfooter there, but it's not gonna work super well usually. Actually, you could do that. So we could say a couple options here. So we could go into our div ID main footer and then class container. So I'm going to go to my theme options, scroll down to my CSS area. So I have an ID of main footer dot container display none. Let's give that a shot. Okay, yeah. So what it does is you'll see it leaves this bar here, and it actually has trouble, even though because yeah, the footer info is inside. So we might have to say something like main footer container and then footer bottom container, display block or something like that. Let's see here. Footer dash bottom. Div ID footer dash bottom. So main footer footer dash bottom dot container display block, let's say. I think that might work. And this is only if you want to keep that subfooter. Yeah, there we go. So that'll keep the subfooter for you. If you don't want to keep the subfooter, you want to make your own subfooter, you would make it inside, our footer layout here. You'd make a new row or whatever and make it. And then what your code would be, you would do this, main footer display none. And I'll put all this code in the description of this video, but just know that this is for, and I'll comment like, keep the subfooter, don't keep the subfooter. And actually, if you didn't want to keep the subfooter, you wouldn't even need the rest of this. You would just need this line. So let me go ahead and save that. Refresh, and you'll see that subfooter is going to be gone, and our footer there is how we want it. So that is how, let me go ahead and undo this here. There we go. And I'll comment. Of course, if I save this, since this footer display none's last, it's still going to keep this subfooter from being hidden because I'm just telling the whole footer section to go away and leave this one. So that's a couple things, options you could do by keeping the subfooter, or maybe building your own unique subfooter inside one of our footer layouts. But that's how you work the footer section. Again, I'll leave a link to this in the description, and I'll also leave this code here in the description as well. All right, thanks for watching.